Ice Age, one of the highest grossing media franchises of all time. The holy grail of Blue Sky Studios, spanning 5 feature-length films, multiple TV shows. Wait, there's 6 films. Wait, but was this character even that popular? How did this even happen? Oh, now it makes sense. The Ice Age was a simple tale about a mammoth, a sloth and a saber-toothed tiger forming an unlikely friendship when they come across a human baby and work together to return it back to its tribe. The film was a massive success, grossing $383 million at the box office and garnering 5 more sequels in the next 2 decades. The following movies continued to be a commercial success, but as 20th Century Fox kept pushing out one sequel after the next, the quality declined massively. And so the once illustrious franchise of the Ice Age gradually fell to the clutches of the evil Walt Disney Pictures, becoming a decadent and bleak part of pop culture. The memories of laughter and happiness that was given to us back in 2002 faded into abyss. I will be looking back to see how this once great franchise fell off a cliff, a really big cliff. And we start with the best and only decent movie of the bunch. The first Ice Age film opens with Scrat the Squirrel, who is in every movie of the Ice Age franchise and has his own solo story and very rarely crosses paths with the main characters. His sequences are reminiscent of the Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry sketches. The physical and slapstick comedy with Scrat are very memorable and always put a smile on my face. Obviously, as the films go on, it becomes less funny. The original was the best, and when I rewatched this one, I was completely caught off guard when Scrat was squashed multiple times. There are many modern jokes that don't feel in your face because the story doesn't pause in that moment. It smoothly incorporates its humour without taking you out of the movie's world. Now, I'm not going to criticise the historical accuracies in this franchise because that's not what the Ice Age series is about. It's there to make you laugh, to keep you entertained.
So for overall biology, probably about a 2.
Yeah. I don't want to start getting angry about the bone structure of the megalonyx.
They left without me. They do this every year.
I don't find this funny, it's all too real for me. I mean, abandonment? Ha! That's funny, definitely can't relate to that. The scene in which Diego and other saber-toothed tigers try to kill the baby is a very emotional and heartbreaking moment that is really what made this film work well. It balanced the dark themes with the humour in a respectful way and also kept you invested. I never felt bored in this movie. Every sequence was as entertaining as the previous one. The dynamic between Manny, Sid and Diego work really well off each other because of how unusual the grouping is. It's 3 completely opposite personalities, and a human baby, that end up becoming a closer family than their own kin. It was a really heartwarming message about family which was explained perfectly through the analogy of what it means to be a part of a herd. And you know what's great? It's 81 minutes long. It's actually the shortest out of the whole franchise. It just goes to show that time has nothing to do with the quality of a movie. It's what you do in that time that's important, whether it be 10 minutes or 100 minutes. Alright, Ice Age the Meltdown. We're at a stage where the franchise is still floating above water. It's not as good as the first one, but I've got to give credit where it's due. The comedy in this one is solid. There are just as many laughs to be had in the Meltdown.
You, ma'am, you look like a big fat hairy beast.
There were still some dark themes with the macabre vultures and a suicidal Sid the Sloth.
Jump, 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 jump out of
The story about Manny being the lost mammoth was not as engaging as the plot in the first Ice Age around the baby. They carry on with the same sort of road movie journey as the first. They've got to go from point A to point B, and in the middle there are a bunch of obstacles full of fun and tense moments. It tries to replicate these beats that made the first Ice Age so successful, but always feels below par. Scrat's story is still entertaining and also pretty dark for a movie that's generally aimed at kids. Death was a surprisingly prominent theme in this sequel. What makes the Ice Age so great to watch is the constant peril that they have to face.
ice in the fucking veins, mate!
The scene in which Sid is taken by mini sloths as a sacrifice was just the most random part of the movie. Maybe if it played into the main story like the musical sequence with the vultures, it would have been less of a waste of time. The subplot of the 2 sea reptiles didn't really make for a great adversary. They kept appearing multiple times to add tension, but really they just needed to be present in one scene in the middle. Overall, this one's a good time passer. It's not quite as entertaining and heartwarming as the first, but still many fun moments to be enjoyed. Ice Age, Dawn of the Dinosaurs. Now I could sit here and say, how is this historically possible? But if I'm a producer at Fox, I think, how do we get more people in theatres? The answer is, just like Jurassic World, quite simply, dinosaurs. These great reptilian beasts just have a domineering presence on the silver screen. People love to watch movies with dinosaurs. And it just shows because Dawn of the Dinosaurs is the highest grossing movie of the Ice Age franchise. And it was the 3rd highest grossing movie of 2009. Only behind Harry Potter and James Cameron's masterpiece, Avatar, which is only the most successful movie of all time. Ice Age 3 was a great success commercially, but how did it fare from a critical perspective? The story around Scrat looks lost for ideas in this one. It just seemed like such a cliched old chestnut of what if there's a female involved. It uses all the romantic tropes possible and yet feels lazy. The problem with Scrat's storyline is that once you see the gimmick as it is for the first time, you know how it plays out in the subsequent movies. It becomes tiresome and less amusing. There's still a lot of fun adult humour that goes over the kids' heads.
I feel tingly.
Don't say that when you're pressed up against me.
Not that kind of tingly.
But you began to notice the jokes felt a lot more stale in comparison to the previous two movies. Not quite as snappy or creative. Sid acting as a mother had its moments, but this really just came out of nowhere. I thought it would just play out as a small side story that would last for the first act, but apparently it just grows into the main storyline. That's the problem with Dawn of the Dinosaurs. Although they were on a perilous journey, the stakes didn't feel as thrilling here. The main themes were about parenthood, but that's something that was already presented, although in a more obscure way in the first Ice Age. And the only reason this happened was because dinosaur eggs appeared out of nothing. I felt that this story could have moved into a different direction. Diego's arc was the most interesting. He felt he was losing his touch accustomed to his carnivorous nature. I felt that this movie should have been centered around his journey and finding himself with everyone else as a supporting cast. But that's the problem when you expand the characters. You have to give equal time for the new ones too. This movie really should focus on Diego, Manny and Sid, with the rest supporting them because their dynamic is the strongest component in the whole franchise. The introduction of Buck as this extraordinaire pirate adventurer blended with the psychopathic traits of Gollum was a fun addition to the gang, and his story with Rudy was very cinematic and immersive. So this one was a step down in the franchise, but it still had moments to appreciate and charm. Okay, this is where the movie starts to drift, and they even admit that in the title. Ice Age Continental Drift is the fourth film that grossed almost as much money as Dawn of the Dinosaurs. Now just because a movie costs and earns a lot of money doesn't mean that the quality of its story is going to match that success. I learned that the hard way by giving away my life savings to Marvel. And what did they give me in return?
How long do we have?
7 days.
I mean, he would die instantly here. I don't see the point of... Okay, is that where we're going now? This is no longer funny. It just makes me want to get a geography book out and learn about the history of tectonic plates. Thanks a lot, Ice Age. You've actually made me want to study, because I can no longer watch these cringe movies. Anyway, it can't get worse than that.
Seriously, that's embarrassing. What a freak.
Yeah, it's just gotten worse. This isn't some typical American high school drama. They're mammoths. The jokes about the teenage-parent relationship were crossing all the stereotypes. This whole trope was very overused and didn't seem necessary in the story. Manny's family relations with Diego and Sid is a lot more entertaining to watch than his actual family. I thought Sid's family returning and abandoning him once more was quite sad, and it really put me in a bad place. I mean, it was hilarious, especially when they threw the granny into the bus too. Most of the jokes feel like potty humour, and you know what, it's exactly that in this movie. The granny sloth just shouldn't be here. It just should have been the iconic trio on the stranded iceberg, but it seemed like the writers wanted to annoy me. The pirates were a brainless inclusion for the story. They didn't need to embrace all the pirates' cliches. It's like, why is this happening? What purpose does this add to the story?
That's me. That's me.
That's bad. That's bad. That's bad.
Even the musical sequences are blatant rip-offs. The romantic subplot between Diego and the other saber-toothed tiger was incredibly predictable and made even more unbearable when merged with the granny jokes.
If they kiss, I'm gonna puke.
What?
Now, like the previous movie, this one suffers from an abundance of characters, which means there's going to be a whole lot of irrelevant and uneventful scenes. Peach's love triangle plot was just not needed. In fact, everyone who wasn't stranded on the iceberg shouldn't have made an appearance till the end, unless there was something funny to add. I mean, why is a molehog even attracted to a mammoth?
What is going on?
I feel like the demographic for the Ice Age has just downgraded from 10 to 4. I mean, they're trying to recreate the same jokes from the previous movies, which shows how futile the writer's table has become. It should be evolving.
It's evolving, just backwards.
This one is significantly worse than the other three. The new characters were all infuriating and useless. Can they just bring back the baby? I want to see him as a grown man reunite with the trio. That would be a movie I'd pay for. Collision Course is by far the worst film of the Ice Age franchise. The characters could not bring any fresh talent or wit to overcome its forgettable and abysmal storyline. We open the movie with a philosophical monologue from Neil deGrasse Tyson, who plays Neil de Buck Weasel. Jesus, I can't be bothered anymore. I still don't understand what he's trying to do here. It's been 5 movies and I no longer like this character. He's in space. I can't deal with this, it's too much. Unless you're under the age of 10, who even finds this funny? What was going through the writers' minds at this point? Or were they just cashing in? You know that the creators of the film have checked out when the story involves them going to space.
This is crazy, bro!
Like the fourth movie, this one just focuses way too much on relationships to a point where it becomes nauseous and insufferable to endure. What even was the plot to Collision Course? I can understand the first three movies making a whole bunch of money, but the fourth I couldn't, and this one made less than half of what Continental Drift made. So it took 5 movies before the audience could say, you know what, maybe they're not that good after all. This whole movie was just a surreal, cringeworthy experience. Scrat was basically in space the whole movie, and a whole bunch of equally weird stuff was going on in Earth. I mean, there's a lot that's happening in this movie, but none of it's cohesive, or good for that matter. There's a plot where Manny forgot his anniversary, and for some reason a whole herd of other mammals are involved. I don't know why I'm complaining at this point. The past 3 movies were lacking in innovation and smooth dialogue, so it comes as no surprise here. We know that the studios become greedy and try to milk as much money out of their properties until no one wants it anymore. It's a shame to see studios treat their movies with such little care, and they treat their audience with even less regard, thinking they'll be satisfied with childlike humour. I'm glad it didn't do as well as Fox hoped at the box office. But what did that result in? Well, that's where Disney come in, the most cynical corporation in the film industry that don't care about the magic of storytelling and memorable characters. And the way the Ice Age franchise was going, you couldn't think of a better pairing, to be honest. And now Disney have released a spin-off centered around Buck, which received just as bad a reception as Collision Course. And apparently there's a 7th movie in the works. It was so sad to see how low this franchise had fallen. We went from one of the funniest and charming pieces of animation to this. And it's not the only animated franchise to be treated as garbage by its studios. Will there ever be a studio that shows genuine care in its properties?